It's your girl, Shauna Speaks Life. Welcome to another episode. OMG, I am so excited that you are here. You are tuned in because if you're here, that means either you love listening, you love learning, or you just trying to get some tea. But either way, I am happy to see your face today. Hey, oh, I laugh at myself sometimes. That's funny. Um, anyway, today I have a very special guest. And I say very like a lot of times when I'm talking about her because she is a super amazing woman and I am just honored and privileged to even know her. But she is my friend. But that's not the only reason why she's here. She really is dope. But Miss Andrea Devora, welcome to the show, girl.
I'm so excited to be here. That was such a sweet introduction. I was just like, heart. Uh, yeah, I'm so happy to be here and just kind of, get some girl chat going.
Yes. So we're going to just dive right in because I do not like wasting people's time. So I know about you, but the audience doesn't really know about you. So just give us a little background of like who you are and where you come from, girl. Just a little bit of tea about you.
Yeah, so as Shauna mentioned, my name is Andrea. I grew up in Dallas, Texas. I was actually born in Mexico and raised here in Dallas. I've been in Dallas ever since. A love-hate relationship sometimes, but this is home. This is where family is. And I don't see myself leaving anytime soon. I am a graduate of the UNC Dallas campus, and right now currently working in a nonprofit. I've been in the nonprofit space too for about 6 years or so. So also just really passionate about education and equity and what that means for students, and definitely always a forever learner. Looking to always expand my learning and growing, not only with goals, but also, personally in relationships, friendships, and all the things.
Ooh, I love that. And all the things, okay? Listen, since you mentioned it, let's talk about some goals. And the reason why I invited you here to talk about goals is because just for has it been like 4 years now? We've
Yeah.
known each other like 4 years. Oh my gosh, that time has gone by. Oh my gosh. Like that's crazy, right? But just in the 4 years that I've gotten to know you, like I see how you move and I see your resilience and I see how you set goals for yourself and how you accomplish them. And I'm like, girl, people need to know how you do it because you really be doing it. And I don't even know if you realize, but I just want to give you your flowers today. Flowers.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So, can you share kind of like an example of a specific goal you set for yourself and how you successfully achieve it?
Yes, yeah. So I know probably the most proud goal that I have today is purchasing like my first home at the age of 25. That was like a big goal. And granted, I don't live in, a new build, but it's my own little space, and something that is building equity and hopefully that I can, potentially use as a stepping stone for something else or to, set my kids up if I do end up deciding to have some kids down the line. But with this specific goal, really, I think it stemmed a lot from my upbringing. I grew up living in apartment complexes my whole life, not having like a backyard, not having a space where I felt like this is my home. This is where I can always come back to. And so from in my early 20s, I was maybe about 21 or so that I really thought to myself, like, imagine the feeling of like being a homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents still weren't homeowners. My mom and my stepdad, they weren't homeowners yet. And so to think that potentially I could, be the first one in the family to accomplish that, I think that was really a driving factor. And it took a lot of work. I was in college full time. I worked a full time job. Luckily, I was able to receive financial aid money. So although I was paying for school out of pocket, I was able to afford paying for school, and then everything else was going to my savings. Like people were traveling in the early 20s, I was at home. I was working, I was going to school, I was at home. I wasn't, spending on experiences, which that's kind of the downfall, right? Or I guess the sacrifice of having such a big goal and being strict with yourself on that front. But um, another thing too, the way I was able to save money throughout college was I did a more like non traditional college route. I went to community college and then I went to a campus. Meanwhile, not having like that traditional college experience of living on campus and like going to the parties and doing other things. But in the long run, it paid off. By the time I was 25, I was able to put all my life savings into a down payment. And yeah, that's probably been like one of the goals that I'm most proud of that took quite a bit of years to accomplish. But I think, in the long run, like all those sacrifices were worth it.
I mean, yeah, like 25, about to buy a home, girl. I'm grown. I don't own a home. So I think that's amazing. And like you said, you also had this extra drive of being the first in your family to be a homeowner and even setting that tone for siblings. You're the oldest in your family, right?
Yeah. Oldest sister.
Setting the tone to show them that it is possible. And even though you made sacrifices, I mean, you were still in your 20s when you hit your goals. So you weren't even sacrificing as long, like when you look back on it versus like when you were in it. You know what I mean? But you made a decision to sacrifice for a long-term goal that you were able to accomplish, and now you are living in the fruits of your labor, girl. Listen, that's amazing, seriously. So what motivates you to set such ambitious goals in the first place?
Ooh, I think a lot of the driving factors are sometimes being the first in the family or setting the tone. I can be a little type A sometimes too, which I think sometimes helps with goals, because I can be hard on myself, right? And thinking of like I have this goal, and what does it mean if I don't accomplish it? What is the impact of that? So I think I definitely strive to push myself and continue creating goals that are gonna expand like my learning, but also set me up hopefully for a better life experience. And not to say that like everything that my parents went through, my mom went through, also like wasn't in vain, right? Like it's kind of this feeling of like all of your sacrifices too were for something. So I definitely like ground myself in that space too when like thinking about goals that I want to accomplish.
Nice. I love that. And I think it's so important to have a sense of why, right? Because if you know your why, even when it's hard or even when you're really looking at all the sacrifices you're making, if you stay like laser focused, you're like, but the end to
Yeah.
this is going to be way more worth it than the sacrifices that I'm making. And knowing that I want to be an example and I want to push forward, not just for myself, but for those around me, I think is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, so when you think about it, like what was a major obstacle that you faced when you were trying to work towards a goal and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I think my most recent one lately has been just related to health. Um, and I would maybe throw fitness in there as well, but mainly just health and habits. No longer in my 20s, and so really kind of thinking about what that means for my health and in the long run too. I recently also got like a health diagnosis that kind of changed some things for me, and so really kind of thinking about um, my habits on that front. And it's really been a goal that I think has been the hardest because this specific goal of just like a healthier lifestyle, working out, taking care of my body in all of the aspects, not just physical. Um, I've set this goal multiple times in the past 2 years, and there's been hiccups down the road of where I stick with it for 6 months, I'm feeling good, and then it gets exhausting to kind of try to maintain, and then I fall off the wagon, and then I'm like, okay, I can do it again. Let's start over, and I think that can be scary, like starting a goal over or thinking that I failed at this goal. I've already tried to achieve this goal, which I feel like this specific goal is a very long term type of goal. So, it's been difficult, but I think one cool thing about setting your own goals is that you can change them, and you can really give yourself grace. You can restart a goal, you can change what you wanted the outcome to be. um, you're really in control in that sense. And so I think that's what I keep in mind, even though this is a goal that I've tried about 3 times. I'm probably on time 4 right now. But I'm motivated and I'm like, look, it's a cycle, but as long as I think I keep myself grounded and like, why is this important to me? Then I'm just going to keep trying. I mean, that's all I can really do, right?
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail right on the head, though. It's like giving yourself grace because at the end of the day, there may be a goal or two that you have not accomplished. And there may be a situation where it's like, I'm exhausted and I'm tired of trying to accomplish this goal. But to your point, there are some goals that are like, this is a never ending goal. And your health, physical, mental, spiritual, whatever the case may be, is a lifelong journey,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you do fall off the wagon, you do fall short, you do eat like 4 brownies in one night because your lady has arrived and she stays for a week. Um, or like you're stressed out or you're celebrating or just all of the life things that happen and we fall off. But I think the biggest thing is giving yourself grace and getting back up again. Every single time you get back up again because it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to push the reset button. As long as we're here, there's always opportunity to start again, to start over, to pick it back up where it left off, and to keep trying. Like that's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
I feel like how many people were falling off bikes when they first learned how to ride it?
I don't know anybody who wasn't. If that's you,
Right. Like if that's
you
you,
know.
like, I don't know, you're special. Because everyone I know, when they were learning how to ride a bike, someone was holding the bike. And then when they let the bike go, you probably fell over. And then one day you just stop falling.
Yeah.
And that's life. And that's
Mhm.
goals. One day you stop falling and boom, you've achieved this goal and it's on to the next one. Right.
Mhm.
So as we're talking about grace and falling down and getting back up, how do you bounce back and learn from experiencing those setbacks?
I think in giving grace, also I think comes time. I know oftentimes I've been like, I fell off. I'm gonna try again next week. But there may be things going on in my life that are kind of preventing me from continuing at that point. And I think it's okay to also recognize like what else is going on that maybe is causing this hiccup or making this impact for me to have to take a pause. And I think too it's okay to take a pause. So I've found that it's helpful to really kind of recognize what's going on in my life right now where it's feeling chaotic or where it's feeling overwhelming. Trying to identify that and getting that squared away first before I can again like kind of start with this like mindset of I'm going to get it. Because yeah, I mean we all have situations, life, relationships, family, things that come up, stress, work, and it's important to also recognize those too, while trying to achieve goals or push yourself to accomplish something.
Absolutely. I say all the time, life be life. Like Whether it's personal or professional, life is always lifing. Seriously. I just be like, I just want a break sometimes. Just stop lifing.
Literally.
Seriously, right? So, as we're talking about goals, achieving, and all of these things, when you think about that, what role does reflecting play in your goal setting process?
I love that. I love that. As I mentioned, I sometimes do think I'm a little hard on myself, or I reflect back and I'm like, what am I doing? What have I done? Especially, for example, last year, I was reflecting, thinking about goals for 2024. I thought to myself, what did I do last year? I did absolutely nothing. Um, but then, really, thinking about that, I think at a glance, it appears that way. But then, really reflecting on everything that I overcame, whether it was, something that someone would consider minor or something bigger, whether it was changing a job or like advocating for myself or setting boundaries. I think like all those things are accomplishments. And really, again, like reflecting back on all the small wins that may have happened through, a long period of time. Um, and then going from there, it's easy, I think, to compare on what goals or accomplishments should look like. But I think that's something like we set the tone for as like we individually set the tone for what we want and what accomplishments and goals look like for us. And so I think I try to ground myself in that, and really now I think really focusing my potential future goals on not only like learning and growing, but also things that bring me joy. Like, what do I enjoy doing? What am I curious about? It's not always about, I think, like numbers or, this big showy goal. It can also be, I want to learn how to play tennis because I don't have a hobby. And it's, I think it's also that finding that balance of things that, bring me peace, bring me joy.
Absolutely. This year for me, I was like, I don't have a hobby, right? So it's like work, family. And I'm like, I need a hobby. I used to have so many hobbies, and I'm like, what do I do for fun? I mean, I love hanging out with my girls, right? Like that's fun, but like just like me, like what do I want to do for fun? And so I made a list, but now it's like I gotta find time. Like, I have to find time to do the things, right? Um, but I was just listening to a podcast episode from Jay Shetty, who I love. He's like super amazing. But he had an episode called Seven Steps on How to Silence Your Inner Critic, especially when it gets too loud and becomes overwhelming. And one of the things that he was actually talking about was how we're so hard on ourselves, like overly critical of ourselves, that we only focus on the things we didn't accomplish
Right.
or who we aren't.
Right.
And he had challenged us to, like, every day at the end of the day, write down 3 great things that happened, whether they're big or whether they're small. Like, if you had a goal of drinking 8 glasses of water and you actually accomplished that, you write it down. I drank 8 glasses of water today. I got 8 hours of sleep today, or I finished that project at work today, because all we do is zoom in on, oh, I ate a brownie today. I didn't do this and I didn't do that. How could I not have gotten this done? And the negative voice is so loud that there's no room for the positive, right? And so we have to kind of learn to spin that. And it's like, yes, of course, there are things that didn't get done because life is always lifing. But if we start to focus on the little things that we did do, like, oh, I got to work on time and I work from home, but I got to work on time today, right? It's like, it's the little things, and you start to pay more attention and start looking at life differently. And so I started that challenge. And so I definitely recommend people tuning into that episode. It just recently came out, and just challenging yourself to really focus on the little wins. Every little win turns into a big win, because these are like little steps we have to take to accomplish this big goal.
Exactly. I recently started reading. I'm only like a chapter in, so can't give you a whole summary. But I recently started reading Atomic Habits. Um, and yeah, I mean, literally, it's setting the tone right now. Where the part where I'm at of these like small daily wins that eventually
Mm.
accumulate right to this larger end goal. And yeah, I mean that's so real. Like I drank all the water I intended to drink today. That is a win because let me tell you, drinking water hard for some reason. Couldn't tell you.
That the struggle is real, but when I accomplish it, I need to say, and I did it and done, right? Seriously. Yeah, Atomic Habits has been on my bookshelf for 2 years and I have not read it yet. But I knew to get it because I knew I wanted to read it.
Yeah.
So, but it's a goal. I said I was going to read 4 books this year. And don't judge me, people, because I know for some of y'all, you like, that's it. And for me in my life, 4 books is a lot. Okay. So I'm going to read 4 books this year and take notes from them and actually apply them to my life. So kudos to Atomic Habits. And I forgot the author's name, but also kudos to Jay Shetty. So, all right. So moving right along, let's talk about advice, right? Because you're killing it in the goal setting and even being transparent about your fumbles, right? Referring to like football or something. But like, what advice would you give to someone who is struggling with goal setting or finding it kind of challenging to achieve their goals?
Yeah, I love that. Honestly, I think now I really think about what are realistic goals. So again, like we talk about, this age of social media, really it's really easy to compare yourself to other people, to influencers, and really kind of thinking too, like what are the factors that are impacting your life? And so taking that into consideration, taking your own goals into consideration, and really just setting some realistic goals around what you want to accomplish, whether that's reading, whether that's picking up a new hobby, whether it's drinking more water, saving some money. Um, so I think one big thing that I do recommend is just like making sure that it's realistic and that it's tailored to you specifically. Um, I think another one too is as we talk about building habits and breaking things up into just like smaller chunks with actionable steps. So like every day you're essentially working towards that goal. It may not feel like it, especially if it's a long-term goal, but just really ensuring that like you're breaking it up. And also just like doing check-ins, right? Like doing check-ins if especially for a long-term goal. What are your check-in dates? Are you checking in with yourself once every 2 weeks, once a month? Where am I at? Do I need to adjust this timeline or, end date? Um, and yeah, I think that would be, the top three that I typically, fall back on to when creating any goals.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why it's so important to use SMART goals. Like when you're planning, whether it's December, January, or the middle of May, like whenever it is, when you have goals that you want to accomplish, align them with SMART goals. So you know, like, is my goal specific enough? Can I actually measure this goal? Like you said, breaking it into small pieces. Is this goal attainable? Like, if I say that I want to lose 50 pounds in 30 days, am I not going to eat anything and just drink water? Like, is that realistic and is it healthy? Right. And then just knowing, like, again, is it a realistic goal and what's the time frame? And circling back to what we said earlier, but also giving yourself grace and knowing that, yes, if we set deadlines for ourselves, like, oh, I want to accomplish this goal by June 1st, and it's January 1st, and then it's like May 15th, and you're like, I'm nowhere near accomplishing this goal. Instead of beating yourself up, you reevaluate it and see why you aren't where you think you should have been. Maybe you didn't give yourself enough time, or maybe life was lifing, so it wasn't always able to be a priority. And then change your date because it's your goal and you can do those things, right?
Yeah.
It's like, who said you couldn't change your date? Now, if it's your job and they give you a deadline, don't say Shauna said you can change your date. Because if you get fired, I don't want you on my line saying it's my fault. Because that's not what I said. I'm talking about your personal goals. Remember that. Shauna got me fired. No, ma'am. No, ma'am, I didn't.
Honestly, my mind kind of went there. I was like, man, I really wish I could change the work deadline. So, but even with work too, I think comes a part of like advocating for yourself and really voicing what you need. And it's something that, even though it feels like I've been working for forever, like when, but it's something that I feel like it is, I'm finally getting comfortable with, is like advocating for myself and what are my needs, and really being able to voice that, asking questions, asking for an extension when needed, and having like that information ready to go of like, hey, I need an extension because X, Y, and Z happened. Therefore, like, this is necessary if you want a great outcome. And so, I think that that's something really powerful too that, um, sometimes folks struggle with. I struggled with that, and now, actually this week, I found myself asking for what I needed. And my boss, who was like, "I'm really proud of you." She was like, "I was waiting for you to say something," and I was like, "Look at that."
Wow.
Yeah, and so, that's another thing too that just came to mind that I wanted to share.
Yeah, no, that's good. See, I, voice my opinion a little too much. But I do think that it is important that, we can advocate for ourselves in our personal life and relationships and things. Why can't we advocate for ourselves in a professional setting as well? Right.
Mhm.
Um, I think that when it comes to talking to your supervisor, whatever, most times they're solution oriented. So it's kind of like, if you need this extension or if you need something, like you said, you're like, hey, I need this because of X, Y, and Z. And so it's like, if you're providing them with the why, like, because you gave me this other project that you also want done, and they both require the same amount of capacity. So one of them is not going to be at 100%, or we could extend the other one and then they both can be at 120, right? So, but just remembering, for those of you listening, that it's a professional setting. So make sure that you are professionally asking for what you need. Because again, don't say you listened to this episode and then you got written up because you was, just saying, because I've seen it. So just like, I don't want no problems. I don't want any problems. But I am so excited that we had a chance to talk about goals and just your journey in that. And I have a hope and I truly believe that someone, even if it's just one someone, is going to listen to this or see this and they're going to be like, those are the nuggets that I needed. And knowing that you're not alone, you're not the first, and you won't be the last to go through the struggles of life and still trying to accomplish things in life. So I hope this was encouraging. Thank you so much, Andrea, for joining me. This has been such an honor.
Thank you so much for having me. I really love to just, chat about life, about things that, have happened, things that we hope for the future. Every time we have a conversation, after we're done, I'm like, we should have recorded that because
I know.
we really do, get deep, and I love that. I love that about our friendship. But no, it was such a pleasure to be here today and to share a little bit more about me.
Yes, absolutely. And don't worry, y'all. This will not be the last time you see Andrea. She just found that out just as I said it. But like she said, we be having good conversations. And I think that some of the conversations we have are things that I'm sure we are not the only women. So I think it would be great to have other conversations. But I think because this is the beginning of the year and this is a time where people are really big on setting goals and sometimes getting frustrated when they're not looking like it's going to happen, that this was a really important conversation to have for sure. So I hope you guys enjoyed another episode of Shauna Speaks Life. Make sure you like, comment, let me know what you think. If you got questions, let me know. Maybe I can have Andrea answer them in a Q&A. You never know if you don't ask. But make sure you tune in for another episode of Shauna Speaks Life. Until then, y'all, peace. Thanks for watching Shauna Speaks Life. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another episode.